I paid Alex Hormozi $200,000 for one day in a boardroom with him and 9 other founders. In this video today, I'm going to share with you the 10 main lessons that I extracted from this one session. There was no phone, there was no computer, and he hardly moved from his chair. It was complete 100% focus. So lesson number 1, make sure that you can ruthlessly focus on the main thing for extended periods of time until you get the result. And so keep your execution focused in terms of keep doing the same thing, but change the person based on the experience that that person has so that they can bring in the next level of solving the problem up to that next $10 million level. The question here, how do you want to do business? Because the thing that I saw amongst all of these people, they all paid the same amount of money that I paid to be in that room. All they were really asking for was validation. Is this idea good? Should I do this or that? And then Alex is like, how sick and fucked up is it that you need to pay some dude $200,000, give you the tick of approval, and be like, you're not crazy. Off you go, son. Go and make some more money. Look, was it worth it? Was the $200,000 worth it? Well, before I do that though, the interesting thing is through the process, I received a whole bunch of messages and story replies from people asking how much it was, asking what the actual fee structure was to be in the boardroom like that with Alex and his team for a full day. And the interesting thing is you always get feedback from people is it worth it? That seems like an obscene amount of money. What did you possibly get from a boardroom like that with one person for 12 hours to justify $200,000? And so the point to those people, first things first, is if you don't yet have $200,000 to invest into one day, then you probably are not ready to even ask the question of, is it worth it? You probably need to focus more on getting the money in your bank account before you can even invest that thing. So for you, it's definitely not worth it. And I find that it's often the people who don't yet have enough business acumen or don't yet understand the cost of ignorance as it pertains to you being able to get what you want. One of the biggest debts in business is ignorance, right? And what that means is you not knowing something in the future that's going to prevent you from getting what you want. And the fastest way to pay down ignorance is to get around, associate with, and expose yourself to people that are doing the very thing that you want. And so there was a time about 16 to 17 months ago that I made this big commitment to myself and the future of my business. I identified the 2 people that I most see myself operating like in the business that I'm building, which was Alex Hormozi and Patrick Bet-David. And I understood that the only way that I was going to learn from and close the ignorance gap in relation to me being able to actually get better in my business, make less mistakes, grow faster with less trial and error, was to expose myself to both of those people as much as physically possible, which means getting to events, getting to workshops, doing mentorship, doing masterminds, doing anything that I physically can to expose myself to the way they think and operate. And the different thing that happens in these live environments as opposed to maybe just watching YouTube videos or seeing different online programs is you get to see how these individuals operate in real time. And so the benefit that I got from coming out here to Vegas and spending that full boardroom session with Alex and his team was seeing the things that you don't see in the YouTube video, right? You don't see how he operates for 12 hours straight. You don't see how his team greet you, ask questions, how they communicate with each other and how they provide value to each of the clients as well. There's all of those soft things. And as you're building your company, you need as much context in relation to closing the ignorance gap on the problems that you might have in the future. And so exposing myself to that situation for 12 plus hours with Alex and his team, for me, was incredibly worth it. For you, if you're in a position where you don't yet have the cash flow in your business to afford those types of things, maybe you need to start with someone who's closer to you. I usually find from a measurement perspective, somewhere in the ranges of say, if you're doing $1 to $2 million a year, you want to be learning from someone that's 5 to 6 million. If you're in that 5 to 6 million range, you want to be at that 10 million. If you're at the 10 million range, you want to be at the 20 million range in terms of where you're learning from. Anywhere from 20 up, you want to be learning from people that are a $50, $100 million level. But the most important thing when you pick these people that you want to learn from is the fact that they are doing it right now, because strategy is only as good as the relevance of that strategy. And all I mean by that is if someone did something 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and they are taking the learnings from that strategy that happened in the past and telling you what to do now in your business, it's likely that it's changed, right? So it's very important to preface this video with some of those key things so that you can get the most value from the lessons that I'm about to go through right now. And you can also select some maybe mentors and people that might be appropriate for you to get the best help so you can get the results that you want in your business with less time, less trial and error, and most importantly, less lost capital. Because the thing that you don't want is you don't want to lose money. You want to make more money, and you'll definitely lose money if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So lesson number 1, this is a big one, and it was absolutely obvious through the entire course of the event. It's present and focus. And Alex sat in this boardroom environment for 12 hours straight, right? The dude had one meal that he was delivered at lunchtime. He had a whole box of nicotine gum that the dude was just chewing on for 12 hours straight. There was no phone, there was no computer, there was a little notebook, right, that had all of the particular strategies that was organized for each of the founders in the room. And he hardly moved from his chair. And I think about that so much in relation to how distracted people are in their day-to-day, right? It's like most founders can't even sit in a chair for more than like 5 minutes without fidgeting and looking at their phone and checking their laptop and looking at some notifications. And so it's like that same focus and that same presence also gives you so much more energy, because I find that when you reduce the amount of things that you focus on and you focus on one thing and you go deep versus broad into a whole bunch of other things, that one thing that you focus on, it gets easier to focus on because there's less shit and your brain doesn't have a whole bunch of different loops open. And so it was very interesting. Over the course of the entire day, there was no dips in terms of energy or dips in terms of performance or getting tired. And so you see this individual that might in YouTube videos like operate at a certain level and you're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I watched that for 20 minutes. Wow. I wonder if he's like that in the real world. And after watching him present for 12 plus hours without a single dip in energy, without a check of a notification, without anyone coming into the boardroom to ask a quick question. Hey, quick one. Hey, could I just bother you for this? Hey, we're doing this right now. There was nothing. It was complete 100% focus. And there's an amazing book that talks about this exact same concept. It's called The Self-Made Billionaire Effect. A team of researchers, they researched about 800 of the most wealthy self-made billionaires in the world that exist today. And what they found was through the interviews and through the discussions with these billionaires, all of them, not just like a small handful, all of the individuals that they interviewed while they were in the boardrooms having these 2, 3, 4 hour long interviews, they were 100% present. They were focused. And it's this concept of like patient urgency. So it's like, I need to be incredibly patient with what I'm doing right now because it's what I'm doing right now. And that I'm urgent with the growth of my company. If I'm urgent with this delivery and I'm scattered and I'm doing a fucking shit job of what I'm doing right now because I'm worried about the future, the present is going to be shit and you're going to get no value from what you're doing right now. And you're also going to rob the future of itself being good as well because you're going to deliver more shit into the future. And this was one of the most overarching premises that I found through observing him and his team for that entire day. It's the benefit that you get out of being able to ruthlessly focus on one particular thing for a long period of time, such that all of his team in the room were doing exactly the same thing, meaning through the whole event, Alex has got about 7 to 8 of his team members in the room, right? They're in the back, they're advisors, they're strategists, they're content kind of creators and content strategists, and they're looking at observing, learning, taking notes, taking down particular things that we might not have heard as founders. Now, the interesting thing is in most organizations, you see this all the time. Team members, there's a little bit of like banter, there's a little bit of like fucking around, like bro club type thing. His team were in this room, fully focused on what was happening within that group. They were taking notes ridiculously over the course of the entire event. They were also giving certain points of feedback at certain moments that was valuable to certain founders in the room. And so it's like this concept of focus, this concept of like wherever you are, that's 100% where you are. And all of your attention should be deployed onto that one thing. And like I mentioned earlier, in the age of social media, distraction, all things trying to get your attention at all times, this is harder than ever. But if you want to truly get good at something, and not just good, but like next level excellent, and you've got your notifications on, you've got your freaking iPhone buzzing, you've got your watch going off on notifications, you've got people coming in and out of your office to quick one interrupt you, good luck getting anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. So lesson number one, make sure that you can ruthlessly focus on the main thing for extended periods of time until you get the result. The second thing, which was observed across the entire room of people, and so how the room ran, there was about 9 different founders. Each of them had different businesses and different verticals doing different things. And so Alex spent around about 60 minutes processing and workshopping and setting out a particular set of sequence plans with each one of those people so that they are very clear about this is the particular problem you're solving, this is what you're experiencing, this is the real problem in terms of this is the actual problem, not the hypotheses, and then this is what you need to do to fix it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sequenced, plan, organized so that can be actioned and implemented based on that. And so what I found through that process, there's a venture capital principle, and there's also this Pareto principle that talks very much to the exact same concept, which is seeing Alex do this in the room. Every single person was, who are the customers that pay you the most? Is generally the first question. Usually it's the 80-20 principle. There's about 20% of the customers in your business that pay you the most profit, pay you 80% of the gross profit dollars in the business, right? How many of those customers do you actively target through marketing, through sales, through any forms of acquisition? Generally, what I found in terms of most of the people in the room, as well as to a degree myself, was there was this very strong knowledge of this is the customer that pays me the most. They renew, they refer, they leave, massive 5-star reviews on every platform. They do all the good things, and I know that they're really good. However, I've got a whole bunch of shit customers that complain. They pay me the least. They just very difficult to deal with. They consume a whole bunch of resources, and they make up 50 to 60% of my client or customer profile or customer base. And so from a resource allocation perspective, all that really means is I've got 20% of my company's resources, meaning cash being paid to me. And out of that 20%, it's generating most of the profit for the whole organization. I'm taking most of that profit. I'm using that profit to service shit customers that complain, whinge, need heaps of time and energy. And there's this massive trade-off that needs to happen, which is I need to say no to all the people that are not worthwhile servicing or providing my products to, so that I can say yes to serving the people that pay me the most, that my company can grow and get to where I want it to go the easiest, and I can also create more leverage. Because the interesting thing that I observed about all the different businesses in the room is they all have different problems, right? Some of them have demand problems, some of them have supply problems, but the very true fact of the matter is the higher amount of gross profit that you have in the products that you sell to the customers that you sell to, the easier it is for your business to get where it wants to go, right? If you're struggling around with a 50% gross profit margin, it doesn't matter how good your demand engine is or how lean your operations are, your business is going to fundamentally struggle. And so the concept, first things first, in relation to targeting the right avatar and looking at that 80-20 principle that I saw Alex do over and over again was, who are the customers that pay you the most? Who are those people? What is the percentage of those people that are in your current customer base? And how can you go to market and target those people very specifically, whether it's with paid ads or outreach, however you get customers? But it's like, that's the game. Like, you know those people that you have in your customer base, and they're the best clients, right? They're the best clients. You could just have thousands of those people, your business would be a dream. However, people go on for decades servicing shit people over and over and over again and making no money from shit people and then complaining about their business. So starting at this point first is a really strong starting point, because it helps you to understand who are the people that I should be focusing more on and who are the people that I need to boot and then remove. Now, further to this, the lesson number 3 that almost is the next sequence based on once you've identified that exact particular client or ideal ICP, they call it, right, is price according to what that person is then willing to pay. And so price is something that people get very funny about. There was a lot of people in the room that, they had, for example, supply constraints, meaning I can't get enough people to service the demand that I have coming into my business. It's like, how do I find service tech? How do I find staff? All those questions were raised over and over again. And it's like, in those situations, the main focus should be to increase the price, right? Because what you do is the right people will continue paying, the wrong people will be like, that's too expensive, and they will go away. But you don't have a demand issue, you have a supply issue. And in the situation, say, for example, what I saw is many individuals in the room identified the ideal client profile, that ICP. This is the person that pays me the most, and they don't really need any service at all. They just get results, and it is fantastic. Then what you want to do is service those people even better and charge 2, 3, 4 times what you currently are charging in relation to trying to keep everybody else happy, right? And the best way that I find this being done is what I mentioned before: price based on what they are willing to pay, not based on what it costs. There were so many people in the room that have these margins set up based on industry standards or based on kind of what their competitors think. And the very idea or the concept of raising their price when it was discussed was like, I don't know if I could do this. I'm terrified of this. I'm just so worried about the idea of raising my price. And it's like, you're in a position where you've got infinite demand. People are coming and fighting their way into the front of your business. Your business is not making any money because you're consumed with shitty customers that aren't actually making any profit dollars for the business. And then you're worried to turn some people away by increasing your price. And it's like, so many people can fix most of their business problems simply by increasing their price as the first thing, turning away a lot of the people that shouldn't actually be customers of the business, and then the business actually being more efficient as a result. Now, finally, on the price component, one thing that was just apparent over and over and over again, and Alex loves this through and through, is rich people pay for speed. And so if you think about this fundamentally, we've chunked the 20% of the business in terms of 20% of the customers that pay 80% of the profit dollars into the business. We've then priced according to those customers in terms of this is the price point that they would actually prefer to pay. And if they were paying this price, they wouldn't even bat an eyelid. They'd be like, well, that's fantastic because we've created the value proposition specific to that particular customer. It's like the value proposition has been shaped around that particular customer. Then what you can do is you can add into the pricing structure price for speed, right? Because people that pay more, they want to pay even more to have shit done quicker. If you think about it, when you go and take your car to get washed, I had a situation recently. I went and took my car to the car wash, and I go in there, and the guy's like, it is a 3-hour wait. And I was like, I don't want to wait 3 hours. I'm like, can I pay you 2 times? Can I pay you 2 times what you're trying to charge me right now and just do it now? I'm going to be here for 45 minutes. Can I pay you 2.5 times? And he's like, no, we can't do that. We can't. I'm like, this is insane. Like, you're going to make 2 times the amount of profit on this sale by saying yes and prioritizing my car versus someone else's car. And it's like, it's exactly the same concept. It's like if you have a supply issue, you have so many customers that are fighting to get into your business that you can't service them, you increase your prices, increase your specific targeting to that ideal client profile, B, increase your prices, and then allow them to pay more to get priority access to the thing that you actually are doing really damn well. So the pricing structure is a huge component to add more gross profit dollars back into your business, because if you are priced appropriately, your business will make a lot more money that you can then reinvest back into growth. Super important stuff. Number 4, in terms of lesson number 4, this was observed through the entirety of the room, right? Most companies have a massive, huge, blaringly obvious demand problem, meaning I can't get enough customers into my business. However, what they do is they spend most of their time on operational fixes in terms of like fixing their product, fixing their landing pages. They spend time on their email sequences. They spend time on like building cool office spaces. They spend time on like hiring more operational team members to service more customers that they don't even fucking have. And this was insane. You see so many of these people that have got these big bloated staff costs, particularly one individual, huge bloated headcount. How much time was being spent on marketing, sales, content creation, demand creation was very low, right? This was over and over and over again observed through the course of the entire event. The biggest moat that most companies have in today's day and age is not the product. Specifically, if you're in a service-led business or a product-led business, say, for example, you sell an e-commerce product as an example, or you sell a service, most of those types of services or products are in some way, shape, or form commoditized, meaning like they're not that different. It's not like you've created like a Tesla that is like fundamentally different. It's recreated the whole car industry almost from scratch. You're selling a different widget. It's got a different feature. It's got a different benefit. It's slightly different, right? And so the main moat in today's day and age is the brand, right? Brand means the association, okay? And you build that association through doing more of the demand creation activities, such as creating content, posting on socials, running paid media, increasing your conversion rate, split testing different funnels. It's like, these are the things that you should be focusing on like 80 to 90% of the time, with then a smaller fraction of your time and energy put into the wildly complex and costly operational things that you are doing right now. And this was fascinating over and over and over again. Every single founder in the room, myself included, right? Fraction of the time spent on demand generation, most of the time spent on product development, on service delivery, on team structures, on recruitment and culture development inside the company, when it's like it should be flipped the other way around, and 80% of your time should be placed on demand creation, brand building. And we've seen this recently with a lot of massive brands that have built, sold, and even exited. Hailey Bieber recently exited her brand, Rhode Skincare, as an example. Massive personal brand, huge association. And through that process, she was able to build a skin company that people immediately associate the product with her amazing skin. I only know this so well because my wife is obsessed with her products. Every time I come over here, she's like, "You've got to get me the Rhode Skin. I can't get it in Australia. You've got to." I'm like, okay, I'll get the fucking skincare. But the fact is, you need to be spending more time on the demand creation activities that build the moat around your company, because the moat, if you're selling the same widget as somebody else, is the brand that you've built and the association that people have, in exactly the same way as The Rock, for example, Papatui. There are millions of skincare brands out there that sell the same potions and lotions and tablets and widgets that The Rock's brand probably does. There is not much of a difference. How many different ingredients can you pack into a freaking tube of skincare? It's like there's a finite amount. And so it's like what makes that brand blow up is The Rock and his brand and his association and all the goodwill that he has plowed into the marketplace for decades now, that people know they can know, like, and trust him. And you probably need to look up this SPCL framework. Alex talks about it a lot in all of his content in terms of how to build influence into your content. Go and watch his content over mine. It's way better in terms of explaining that framework. But it's a very, very powerful takeaway in terms of lesson number 4. Make sure that your time and energy is spent on demand generation and audience building, association building, brand building, as opposed to focusing on your widget that is essentially a commodity and someone else can just sell the same shit as you, who has a much bigger brand, and then take all your customers. Focus on the demand, focus on the audience. That's lesson number 4. Lesson number 5, powerful one came, and this is almost an extension of the content component. So I've tried to structure these almost like sequentially. If you were to go and follow through this sequence in your business, it probably would make sense, right? Starting at the top and then working your way through, you'll probably get a lot of value going through it that way. So lesson number 5 is repetition, okay? The biggest takeaway that I found that Alex just drills home over and over and over again, and he drills home so well that all of his team repeat the same thing. And this was observed through the first trip that I actually had when I came out here to Vegas and did the initial workshop with his team. His team, they're like robots, and they parrot the same things that he says over and over and over again. And that only comes with repetition, meaning like when asking his team a question, they will say, "Alex says X." there's this framework that Alex uses. It's called X. The way you should think about that is X, because Layla always says X, X, X. So it's like they are like programmed. And so if you think about it in relation to your content, one of the biggest blockers or bottlenecks that most people have in terms of like creating content or, beginning to ideate on different, concepts, as an example, in relation to your brand gets trust through repetition. Repetition means saying the same thing over and over and over again. Now, the example which I think is fantastic that Alex always talks about is Dave Ramsey, right? He has that kind of financial education show / podcast online. Crazy amount of followers, 5 to 7 million followers on his channel. And the guy gets on there every single day for 3 hours a day at a desk that looks probably similar to this big ass thing that I'm in front of right now, and essentially says to every single person that call in, he does like a live call in show. It's like, call in and we'll see if we can solve your money problems. And it's like, I wonder how he's going to solve this person's money problems. And he's been doing this for 30 years. And every single person that he speaks to on the phone is some way, shape, or form told the same thing. You should spend less than you earn. Like, that's his whole concept. It's like, don't get debt, don't get credit cards, and spend less than you earn. And like every single person that calls in is told a variation of that same thing. And this show has been running for 30 years. And it's like, so the takeaway here is, if you are bored with your content, and if you are bored saying the same thing over and over again, it's probably a sign that you are doing it enough and you need to do it more. Because one thing that I fell in the trap of a lot is like, I want to feel really good about the things that I'm talking about, or I want to share stuff that excites me, that I'm like passionate about. And it's like, your passion changes based on the problems that you solve and the stage of like life and business that you're in. So if you're constantly chasing like the next thing that you're going to be passionate about, you're always going to be looking for something else. Oh, that person's posting this content. Oh, that person's talking about their life. Oh, that person's talking about their relationship. Oh, that person's talking about their health and fitness. Maybe I should do that as well. And so when you think about the brand component, brand, again, if you look at the definition, it's like trust and association with a particular object, a person, right? And so how do you build trust? Again, you build trust through like and association and sameness. And if you're constantly changing your messaging in your content over and over again based on how you feel, based on what you're passionate about, people aren't going to trust your brand. So in terms of the takeaway there on lesson number 5 is repetition. The good things that you want to create in terms of your content, and really in most parts of your business, are going to take disproportionately more reps than you probably imagine. And you just need to be okay with that. And if you're bored and you feel like you are like scraping your eyeballs out of your head because you just cannot think about dragging yourself in to do one more rep, you're probably starting to do enough reps. So just keep moving forward. Lesson number 6. Now, this is fascinating in terms of this concept. So there was multiple different businesses in the room that had multiple different like problems, and fundamentally a lot of them had a strategy that was working. And so this concept is, if your business is making more than say $3 million, maybe $5 million a year, you've got a strategy that works, meaning you're getting customers, you're delivering something to those customers, and hopefully you're making some money from that exchange, that value exchange. And so that is kind of like a strategy that is working. And what happens is, a lot of the time as founders kind of grow from 0 to 1, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, et cetera, they hire a whole bunch of their friends and maybe family members and people to come along the journey. And fundamentally, those people might be good for that particular stage of their business. And the strategy that you have clearly works. But most of the time, it's not a strategy issue, it's a people issue. This is the who, not how, right, is the overarching concept here. Who do you have executing on the thing versus we need to change our strategy entirely? Because what I saw was there was a whole bunch of people in the room that were doing different things in terms of, they're like, we should start marketing on this channel. We should start deploying cash on this channel. We should start developing this product. We should start hiring this person over here and start developing this new referral partnership. And everything that would be brought up and discussed would be like, what's wrong with what you're doing right now? And if you boiled that right down, it was essentially some variation of, well, the person that's doing it right now, like they just, they said that they can't really get any more customers, or they said that we can't really use any more spend on Facebook because it's not as profitable. And so it's like, it's not a strategy problem, it's an execution problem, right? It's like the same person that helped you scale your Facebook ads from 1 million to 5 million and then goes, well, look, we need to do a different channel. We need to do Pinterest. We need to do TikTok. We need to do Google now because, Facebook is just not working. That is not the case, because there are companies out there that spend hundreds of millions of dollars on Facebook every single year, and they potentially make hundreds of millions of dollars back from that investment. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending it. So the question is not what platform do we need to go from, right, and start changing platforms and changing strategy. The question is, who is the right person that can actually run Facebook ads at $1 million a month and beyond, right? And so keep your execution focused in terms of keep doing the same thing, but change the person based on the experience that person has so that they can bring in the next level of solving the problem up to that next $10 million level, as an example, as opposed to trying to change the strategy, shift your attention, do something else and be like, let me go and bring something new into the equation, which is untested, unproven, and has a high probability of just not working and turning into complete fucking chaos. Lesson number 7. The question here, and I think this is a powerful question for everyone to continue asking themselves at each and every different stage of business, is how do you want to do business? And that sounds really basic, but it's like, if you sit back for a second and think about it, you're like, the way that I have been doing business, is that how I chose to do business? Andy Grove has this concept that he talks about a lot in Only the Paranoid Survive. So he went through this situation where, and he was the CEO of Intel, right? The Japanese version of his company, they built this competition that was wildly cheaper and was actually a much better product when they were in the memory chip business. They were doing memory chips back in the 90s into 2000s, right? They were both selling memory chips. This Japanese competitor came into the market and was like, way cheaper, way better product. And for about 2 years, they tried to compete. They were losing like hundreds of millions of dollars every single quarter trying to compete with these, Japanese competitors. And what happened was Andy had his COO come into the boardroom, and this COO asked him one question very similar to this. Andy, if you were to leave Intel and then come back to Intel today with all the same information, the same knowledge, everything that you know to be true about this industry and this business and all your experience right now, what would you do? But you had none of the predetermined biases or like, oh, this is the way we do things or this is how we've always done things. What would you do? And he's like, well, I'd get the fuck out of the memory business. And it's like, wow. So the question here for everybody that was asked over and over again in this room is like, how do you want to do business? And is the way that you are currently doing business the right way? Does it actually make sense for the future of your business? And if you were to kind of play it out and go, if I continue doing this, what does the future look like? Because Andy, back in the 1990s there, he was running off the edge of a cliff. And if he continued playing that game, the business would be bankrupt, as opposed to being the number one memory chip that moved into actual chips, like microprocessors. So they went from memory to microprocessors. They took over the whole market and they were the biggest in the market, and they still are today in terms of building microprocessors. Obviously, NVIDIA and all those good things has come out and probably dwarfed them, but that's an insane transition that came through the question of how do you want to do business, right? Most of the time, right, founders sell shitty products that they don't want to get in front of, right? And so the big takeaway in the room here was that there was multiple different people in multiple different industries, right? Some people selling electrical services, some people selling marketing agency services, some people selling technology services. And all of these companies had different problems, right? Some of them had demand problems, some of them supply problems, some of them were selling shitty products, some of them had bad culture and bad people, all those things. But if you chunk it all the way back to first principles, the founder is the biggest problem, right? And most of the time, the founder's belief around what is possible is the biggest block. And I saw this over and over again. And how this pertains to how do you do business is because most of the time people have been doing business in a certain way for years, maybe even decades, without questioning, is this the right way to run this business? Is there a different way to run this business? If I restarted again today, would I still do the thing exactly the same? Or how would I do things differently? And the thing is, every single one of you listening probably has a different way that you'd run your company. And then it's like, what stops you from going and actioning on the different way to run your company rather than being like, yeah, you know what? I probably should build a better product because people fucking complain about it all the time and they don't really like it. Oh, well, let's just keep fucking selling shit. Or it's like, yeah, you know, I definitely focus on my operations. I've just really, really been good at finance and, running my numbers and, trying to get things operationally efficient, but I'm just terrified of content. I probably didn't do more content. Oh, well, let's just keep doing the same shit. And it's like, your business is going to continue at the same rate. In fact, it's going to get worse because competitors are going to continue taking your customers because you are too afraid to do the thing that you know you should fucking do. And fundamentally, all of the problems that were observed in that room were some extension of this. Someone sitting there in front of Alex or in front of anyone else and saying, yeah, but I can't raise my prices because of X. Or, I can't really improve my product because, insert bullshit reason that is really, I'm just scared, right? And your business will never outgrow your level of personal development. There's this saying that Patrick Bet-David says that I love. It goes, business is just personal development wrapped in capitalism, right? It's like, we're here to make money. That's the goal. Okay. However, you must fundamentally, as a founder, constantly continue developing, growing, and shifting the way you operate. And if you don't, your business will stagnate at a particular level and it will stay there because you are too scared to have the conversation with that shitty employee, or you're too scared to fire half of your clients because they don't pay you any money, or you're too scared to make a decision that you know you should make. Asking that frame and that question, is this how I want to do business? Or maybe asking that question that Andy Grove got asked. If you were to start again today with the same knowledge, the same experience, but with none of the biases and all the bullshit connections around this is how we do things, what would you do differently? And if you remove all of the fluff and all the questions and all the justifications around why you can't in fact do that and just move violently into doing that thing, chances are you'll actually grow at a much quicker rate and you'll get more of what you want in your business. And you won't feel, this is the problem, if you avoid that kind of founder kind of growth cycle, you start to lose trust in yourself. Because the thing that I saw amongst all of these people, they all paid the same amount of money that I paid to be in that room. All they were really asking for was validation. Is this idea good? Should I do this or that? And then Alex is like, what do you think? He's like, well, probably that. He's like, I think that too. And it's like, how sick and fucked up is it that you need to pay some dude $200,000 to give you the tick of approval and be like, you're not crazy. Off you go, son. Go and make some more money. Yes, you should do that thing. It's like, that comes when you don't take bets on yourself. Right? Jeff Bezos says this all the time. The biggest constraint of Amazon is not the supply chain. It's not the customers. It's not fulfilling orders. It is the speed of which that company can make decisions. Because the more decisions you make, the better you get at making decisions. And the better your future gets because it compounds trust based on the decisions that you make and the evidence of those decisions becoming good things through your overcoming of the fear that you have as a shitty, scared little founder that goes, I don't know if I should do that thing, but really you do know. You just need to damn well fucking do it. So moving along to lesson number 8, this is shifting gears into a little bit more of a team-based structure. So if you have a team, this is going to be more relevant for you. If you don't have a team, then don't worry about these problems. Focus more on your demand and just generate more customers and focus on making more profit from those customers first before you worry about this shit. Lesson number 8 is teams, right? And so teams of people will always optimize based on the person in the team that gets away with doing the least and not getting fired, right? If you want to kill a culture of A players, protect people on the team that do below average, or let them off the hook for repeatedly making mistakes over and over again. If you put a 9, right, a 9 out of 10 A player type thing around a group of 6s, that 9 will very quickly regulate themselves down to a 6 simply because they realize that this is acceptable. This is the standard that people can operate in this company and not get fired. There's no consequences. There's no penalties. It's okay. And humans, as we are energy conservation machines, we don't like to expend energy unnecessarily, go, well, I guess if John and Tommy are doing this and they're only showing up 7 hours per day and they're not really working that hard and they're still getting paid the same as me and they're not getting a smack bum or any warnings, I guess that's okay then. And so a lot of people talk about A-player cultures. And if you go into their organization and you see how their team operates, their team are late, their team is sloppy, their team are not on time, their team don't deliver good quality result, and it gets accepted. And the problem is, as your business grows, so does the complexity of the business, meaning more people, more connections, more conversations, more dilution of standards, right? And Benjamin Horowitz, he has this saying in The Hard Thing About Hard Things. This is one of the greatest concepts. It's I think in American football, I'm a fucking Aussie, so I don't know this very well, but I think there's this person called like a linebacker or something, and their whole job on the football field is to fight and prevent the enemy or the opposing team from taking ground. Like that's their whole job. They're not trying to run the ball. They're not trying to do anything. They just want to like put their shoulder in and just drop the other players from trying to advance, right? And so their goal is not to prevent it from happening. It's not to prevent, because they know they're going to get ground. They know they're going to some are going to make their way through, some are going to fight and jump over the top, and they're going to, make a few feet or meters or whatever the thing, that yards maybe. And it's like at some point or another, they're going to get through, right? And so the concept is give up ground begrudgingly. Because as your company builds and it gets more and more and more people in it, what's going to happen is the standards are going to be diluted, because you as the founder with the clear vision of the future and the standard that you have for the company cannot be in every single room, in every single Zoom meet, in every single Slack channel, in every single client call, helping transmit that vision into people. So it's like, how do you do it then? Well, it's going to, get given up. You're going to have to give the standard up. And so it's like, if the standard isn't even clear when you've got a team of 5 and you've got lazy slobs all around the place with 5 people and you want to grow a big company, then be prepared to have a massive company of waste, where all people do is protect each other. They bring their dogs to work. They sit around on beanbags. They play fucking ping pong, and no one does any work, and the company loses money. That's what happens if you don't reinforce the standard, right? Seeing it with Alex's team. These guys all work 6 to 7 days per week, 12 plus hours per day. They're all chewing on that nicotine fucking gum, all of them, right? They're all like geared up and buzzed, sharp as a tack, on it every single day. And it's like, why do they do that? Because they don't accept people that don't. And people are fighting their way in to that company to be there because of growth, because of opportunity, because of skill set development. All of his team, they said the same thing. I've been here for 6 months. I've been here for 9 months. And I tell you what, man, I've learned more in this place in the last 9 months than my entire career, my entire business career. I had a business. I sold it for $20 million. And I'm here right now. And I've learned more in 9 months than my entire 6 years building my company. It is insane. But they don't accept people who want to work the 9 to 5. They don't accept people that try and leave early. They don't accept people that want to have long lunch breaks and hang out with all their friends. They certainly don't accept people bringing their dogs to work, right? It's like that standard gets set, and once it's set, it needs to be upheld, and not just upheld, but it needs to get increased, because A players want to work around A players, and they only want to work around A players. If A players are associated with a whole bunch of B players and their whole job in a company is to lift up and compensate for the losers on the team, they will very quickly leave that company and find somewhere else where they can contribute value, they can be challenged, and they can be recognized for the great work that they do. And the overarching goal in terms of finding these A players, this is more of a founder takeaway in relation to the size of the opportunity that you are building. a lot of people make the complaint or they say the statement of, I can't find good people. And that means that you probably have a small company and you've also got a small vision for that company. Because if your company is big enough, that's one thing. But if your opportunity is big enough, meaning the vision that you have for the future of the company is big enough to support all the people's visions inside the company, A, they will never fucking leave because they're just so excited about where the company is going. And then B, they will be able to build their vision inside of your vision, meaning they will be driving the company forward as opposed to you having to get in and make every single decision inside of the entire organization, right? Moving right along to lesson number 9. This is a concept that Alex and his team are just sick with, right? Standards or anything that gets communicated into the company. One of the biggest frustrations that I have personally myself, my wife has this a lot, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, is people can communicate in these broad terms, right? Raise your standards, work harder, you should do better at your job. It's like, what does it actually mean? And his whole team, his whole culture is built around being able to operationalize things into what he calls observable terms. So observable terms means the behavior that actually is inside of that overarching thing, such as have more charisma or work harder or have higher standards. So it's like, how do you say to someone, have high standards? What does that actually mean? Like, what are the constituent parts of standards? As an example, is that like showing up at a certain time? Is that like wearing a certain type of dress? Is it having your hair in a certain way? Is it having your beard trimmed in a certain way, right? Is it having your shirt tucked in a certain way? Is it speaking first when you meet someone? Is it making eye contact for a particular period of time? And so I think what this does is, it's very difficult, number one, because like as you progress and grow as a founder, you're always wanting to solve newer and bigger problems as your business grows. And it makes it very, very freaking hard to get all the way back down into the details and think, okay, so if I want someone in the company to have high standards, from my view, where I see the company and where I see what is required in the company, what does that mean? Like, what is a high standard for me? And then you think about that and you literally break it into specific itemized behaviors, such as wearing particular types of shoes, not wearing particular cologne or perfume, right? Certain behaviors in terms of how you shake a hand, how long you shake, like that is the micro level of detail that if you want to build great culture and if you want to create great behaviors that self-perpetuate across the company, defining those things down into observable terms was the takeaway that I got from that. And this is something that I'm sickly guilty with in terms of just do this or just do that, or, you know, push these ads live or set up this ads funnel or go and, recruit for this person. But it's like, if you take anything in terms of any direction and you break it down into the most detailed fashion, write the job description like this, use these exact prompts, call people this terminology, don't use this language, use this language. At the bottom, ask them to submit a Loom or video introduction to themselves. When they do submit a video introduction, make sure you follow them up within the first 3 hours of their submission. During the follow-up process, when they do submit, say this thing first. Like, it's like, do you think that would have a better result than saying, go and see if you can hire a content person? It's like, what does that mean? And then they come back to you the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks and say, we couldn't find any good people. Yeah, we didn't really have much success with that marketing hire. It's like, was your direction good enough in observable terms to help that person to get the result in a clear and concise manner such that they can actually do the job effectively? And not just that, but the most important thing that comes out of this is you can tick the box and know that the direction that I gave this person was abundantly clear to the point that if they cannot get the result, it's a them problem. It's not a direction problem. Because one of the other challenges that's an extension of this exact behavior is when you fire somebody and you don't have, or you didn't give them enough specific detailed information around how to win at their job, you feel pretty shit. You're like, yeah, sorry, we're gonna have to let you go because you're not really fitting the standards of the company. It's like, right. Sorry, you're just not really fitting how we do things here. Like, what does that mean? And you're across the table from someone and you're having to literally like watch their whole life fall apart in front of your hands because of a decision that you made, but you can't describe it to them in terms of what particular things that you do or you did do or did not do. And more importantly, you didn't put the training material in place ahead of time so they could actually win. And so this goes both ways. When you're training people, breaking those things down into observable terms. But second to that, when you are firing someone, give them the specific details as far as what they did and did not do, right? That was behind the reason they got terminated. If you do that, you feel a lot better because you're like, yes, that is correct. You did this. You didn't show up on time for these 3 days in a row over and over and over again. You got the warnings. You spent this money on Facebook ads and that was wasted. There was a warning around that. You continued to waste money on Facebook ads and not optimize the ROI in this amount of time. For those reasons, my friend, you are being terminated. It's like, okay, I understand. Versus, like, sorry, you just don't really fit the culture or the vibe anymore. So observable terms is a takeaway for lesson number 10. Lesson number 9. Lesson number 10. Finally, to break all of this down, the fundamental principle that I saw happen over and over again during this workshop was a lot of people essentially asking questions somewhat along the lines of like, I think I should do this. I think I should do this new thing. I think I've got this idea that I really want to pursue. It's a new business. It's a new AI technology. It's a new bot. It's a new market. It's a new direction. And so Alex just asks this same question over and over again, which is just, what's wrong with what you're currently doing? And this like is a first principles type of philosophy or way of thinking. And if you think of all of the decisions that you want to make in your business through this lens, it'll greatly help, which is essentially, what's wrong with your current thing? Because it's working, it's making money, right? And the frame or the sequence of questioning kind of goes like this. What is wrong with what you're currently doing? Why can't you just do more of what you're currently doing? What's the cost of the other thing? As in, how much is it going to cost you to go and experiment with the other thing, right? What experience do you have with the other thing that might make it even work at all? What happens if the other thing does not work and you go and lose money over in that other thing? How much is that going to cost you if that thing does not work? Selling a different product, going into a different market. And then if I spent that money that I would potentially lose over here for no return in my current business, doing more of what I'm already doing based on the track record, probabilistically, how much would I get back? Probably a 3x. So what you're essentially saying is you want to go and take money and invest it into something else that you've never done before. You have no experience doing. You've never done it, right? There's a high probability that you'll lose that money. That money could be making a 3x return today in your current business. Please tell me how and why that is a good idea, because that sounds like fucking ludicrous. Right? And so most of the time, these ideas and concepts and these ADD brains that we all have in relation to this idea and this opportunity, they are distractions. They are women in the red dress. Oh my God. Oh my God. And they will cause you more damage than they will do any good for your business. The key word of that entire workshop was focus. As I said at the start, Alex emits focus like an absolute demon, and all of his team do the same thing. Steve Jobs, he said this. He had this concept when he was talking to all of his team members at Apple, and this was in relation to saying no to particular things, as far as like, what do we say yes to, what do we say no to, and the litmus test in terms of like how to filter through your decisions is like, when you're saying no to things, you need to say no to things that you can do, you could definitely do really well, and they probably could work. And when you're saying no to them, you want to like wince, like, oh, I can fully do that fucking thing. And it's like, that's how you know you've taken enough of a cut in terms of the no. Because what that's doing is it's ruthlessly prioritizing energy to the thing that is definitively going to work for you and your situation, as opposed to, yes, that looks kind of good. Let's throw some money at it. Yes, let's do some international expansion. I'm going that way right now. Yes, let's do that. I'm going to hire that person. Yes, let's launch that product. That sounds good as well. And all of a sudden, you've got 16 different things in the air. All of them suck because you can't commit any attention to any of them. And then you're in a position where you're just completely flogged. You're tired. You've got no energy left. And you're like, yeah, you know what? This business thing is not for me. It's too hard. And it's like you just didn't say no to the things that actually should have been said no to. So say no to more things. Now, finally, in terms of wrapping this whole thing up, and the biggest takeaway that I got out of this entire event is you can essentially get whatever you want in your life and in your business if you say no to enough distractions, if you're willing to put in egregious amounts of effort and work for periods of time that most other people would see as unreasonable, freaking insane, like the most wild thing that you would ever do. But the growth comes from the boring work. That's the truth. It's not the shiny, sexy distractions here, there, and everywhere. It is the boring thing done repeatedly over and over and over again, well beyond the point where most people have lost their passion and they've lost their, enthusiasm with the thing they're doing. And you are just there continuing to bludgeon your way through into the future. And then people go, oh my God, overnight success. It just seems like out of nowhere, you've just built this massive business, right? Now, finally, to close the door on these events and investments into closing the ignorance gap into yourself in your business, right? These events are great from a tactical process perspective. I've got about 40 or 50 pages of very key, dense takeaways and a particular sequenced action plan that I've got for myself and my business. That's great. That's very cool. The other kind of like second order consequence that comes from these types of environments is the fact that you have this paradigm shift. And every single time I've had tremendous growth in my life or in my business, it's come from these paradigm shifts. And all that really means is you have a current view of the world, right? Before I started my business, my current view of the world was that every single person would be using drugs, because I use drugs every day. And I was like, well, man, all of these people, they must be all like off their head on cocaine as well, because like, gee, he kind of looks like he's sniffing. This guy looks like he's doing some stuff as well. Like, that is how I saw the world. And so as soon as I had the paradigm shift that I saw a different way to live life and a different way to make money and a different way to operate day to day, things changed. And so when you get yourself in environments and rooms and expose yourself to things that are so categorically different from you and the way that you're currently living life, it's like once it gets seen, it cannot be unseen. And you're like, like a new standard gets set, a new way of seeing things get set. And all of a sudden, the way you make decisions, they all kind of like collapse inside of this vacuum that's being created because your view of the world has been shifted, right? So look, was it worth it? Was the $200,000 worth it? Well, the results of the next 6 months will surely tell, right? But if I was you and I was asking that question still at this point in the video, I would get back to work and start building a business that can afford yourself the position to be able to actually invest into the things that you want at the level of being able to pay $200,000 for a single day. If you enjoyed these lessons and there was any key takeaway from anyone in specific, I'd love to hear in the comments below. You can leave the comment of the particular lesson that you took away specifically. If you like this content and you want to consume more of this content and get more videos just like this, like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you back here for the next one very soon.